Light Sports Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light Sports Ramble. I am Troy Otradovic. As always, I'm joined with my co-host, Evan Witallison, who is out near the frozen tundra, not in the frozen tundra, but in the state of Wisconsin.
Cold enough.
Well, I'll tell you what, Evan, I was just going to ask you that the weather forecast for Sunday is calling for maybe single digits and a wind chill in the negative degrees. So what's the weather on Thursday?
The weather they're calling for the game on Sunday for kickoff time is supposed to be between -2 and -4, so it's less than single digits.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. So should be very interesting on Sunday if it does get down to that cold. But yeah, it's chilly here right now. I don't know what it is in Green Bay, but it's probably low 20s here, but it's going to dip significantly over the next few hours to really cold. Like the high on Monday here in Racine, they're calling for a high of -6. So,
well, I hope you got your earmuffs, gloves, long underwear. I hope you're all bundled up out there, bud.
yeah, I'm trying to stay warm.
Yeah, we got a winter advisory out here. We got a lot of snow coming in, so that should be fun. I might have to close the school tomorrow. That would be really interesting. But let's get back to it. It is Thursday. Everybody knows on Thursday, Red Light Sports Ramble, Evan and I discuss Packer preview, and this is huge, Evan. And it seems like this is now becoming a rivalry. We've got the 49ers in the playoffs again. We've played them in week 1 the last 2 seasons. People are saying the 49ers have the Packers number. They have won 3 in a row. The all-important playoff game last year when they literally embarrassed us with the read option and just destroyed our playoff hopes last year. And so now we had a revenge game in week 1. Came out. Kaepernick destroyed us with his arm. But after that, he kind of settled down. Just had a okay year. Nothing eye-opening. But still beat us in week 1. 2 different ways that these teams got to the playoffs. The 49ers just kind of trotted along behind the Seattle Seahawks. Didn't do enough to win their division. So at 12-4, they are the 5th seed in the playoffs. The Packers, on the other hand, we all know Aaron Rodgers got hurt. We barely made the playoffs. But in either case, we are NFC North Division champions. We get to host a game. And so the 49ers are coming to the frozen tundra. So I'm going to let you take it away. Get right into the keys to this game for the first weekend of Wild Card Weekend in the NFL.
Well, looking at the 49ers, I'm going to look at what the 49ers are going to try to do when they have the football. Looking at the Packer injury report, no Johnny Jolly, no Clay Matthews, and everyone did practice today other than Clay Matthews, but you still have Nick Perry's being bothered by a foot still, so that concerns me. So I look for San Francisco to try to do a lot of zone read in this game, do the exact opposite of what they did in week 1 and do what they did in the playoffs and do a lot of zone read. And the reason is the Packers are very weak on the edge. Perry's slowed by his injury. You don't know how he's going to react to the zone read because they didn't run it at all week 1, so we don't know. There's a lack of experience of Andy Mulamba, so that's concerning. How's he going to react to the option read, the fake handoff, and Kaepernick keeping it? And also look for San Francisco to run a lot of short, quick passes to put pressure on the safeties of Green Bay and the linebackers, force them into coverage, both the safeties and the linebackers, and to slow up any kind of pass rush the Packers might try to generate, and expect lots of Frank Gore and company to go along with the zone read and the quick, short passes. So what the Packers have to do on defense, they have to control the line of scrimmage. The defensive line this past few weeks has been very, put it bluntly, awful. They've got no push up front. B.J. Raji's been non-existent. Pickett's been doing the best he can, but he's not as effective anymore. And teams are just plowing over them like they're not even there. And they're getting up to the linebackers, and the linebackers now have to take on blocks. They need to put pressure on Kaepernick, force him to make quicker decisions, by putting pressure on him, but they also have to contain their gaps. So if the D-line is able to get pressure up front and they force Kaepernick to make quicker decisions with the football on what he's going to do with that zone read, that's going to screw up the timing. And they have to keep the 49ers to field goals. You know, they can force, because the 49ers are going to get 2 yards. If they can force the 49ers to field goals like they did against Dallas, Green Bay does have a shot. Now, defensively, look for San Francisco to try to put lots of pressure on Rodgers and play press man on the outside to keep the receivers from getting off the line free. By doing this also, they can slow down the running game, too. You know, the 49ers D-line and linebackers, as we all know, are very good, especially the linebacker play with Wills, Bowman, Brooks, and Smith. So the Packers' offense are going to have their hands full, and I see the 49ers bringing the pressure, trying to see if Rodgers is as healed as he says he is. So on offense, they have to protect 12. They have to establish a running game. They have to get long, sustained drives, because if the 49ers' offense gets going and it becomes a shootout, the Packers are going to have a very hard time staying in this game with their defense, and you know how good San Francisco's defense is, and the Packers have to score touchdowns. They cannot settle for field goals, especially in the red zone. So that's what I feel they have to do, both offensively and defensively, to win.
Well, you brought up some good points, Evan. I do know we have a caller. I want to let the caller know we will get to you as soon as I comment on a few things that Evan had talked about. First thing, Evan, we were talking before the show. Exactly what you said. Defensive line has to get this pressure, has to disrupt the timing. Then we have to have gap discipline. But what is the one thing that we have not done on defense the last 3 weeks? We have not sustained our gaps, and we have got gouged for huge runs. And so if they go to the read option and we do get the pressure, it's not going to matter. These linebackers have not been playing disciplined on the outside to contain those gaps. And if we don't do that, it's going to be the playoff fiasco all over again, and Kaepernick is going to have those chunks of yards. And so that is what concerns me offensively against our defense, is that we have been getting a little bit of push at times. We have been able to get some pressure. The problem is this quarterback and this style, if we don't sustain our gaps, and we didn't even do it against the Bears. I mean, I remember a couple of shoestring tackles that could have went for a lot bigger gains than what they did because we were out of position. So hopefully we find a way to fix that immediately. The second thing that you brought up, Evan, is on defense for the 49ers. I think they have one of the best linebacking cores in football, and it could cause a problem.
Yes, they do.
It could cause a huge problem depending on how they put the pressure on. When I was looking at the stats, they're only tied for 18th in sacks, but they do the thing that you and I have been talking about that we want the Packers to do. Doesn't necessarily matter how many sacks you get. It's the pressure that you're putting on that quarterback. And so even though they've only recorded 38 sacks, they still pressure quarterbacks into turnovers. And that's why their pass defense is ranked 7th in the NFL at 221 yards. They're forcing quarterbacks to make quicker decisions and make quick reads, and it's allowing their secondary to have good opportunities to create turnovers. And I have one more point about the red zone, but I'm going to get to the caller. We'll welcome the caller in, Evan. Thanks for calling in.
Right now, with all these stupid names on here, like some of these names, you guys should be embarrassed. You guys, that name right there, you know what I'm talking about. You guys are trolls. You guys, why don't you guys go troll somebody else? Stay off my switchboard. All right.
Hey, welcome into the Ramble, bud.
The true fans come in.
Oh yeah, they love to troll me, but whatever, that's fine. Do a show, save a troll. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing a show, I'm saving.
Well, Evan, I'm going to go back. He's on his radio show. That is one of our listeners who does call in every once in a while. I'm sure he has some stuff to say. But I want to get to the red zone that you talked about. You and I talked about this early in the season, Evan, even when Rodgers was healthy, about the red zone efficiency. We were not very good, and we weren't even very good against the Bears. So what do you think will be a key, Evan, Sunday against the 49ers? How do we get rid of the problems of turnovers and field goals? What do you think we need to do inside the 20?
Just got to execute. Packers are really missing Jermichael Finley right now. He's their big red zone target. They're really missing him right now, but they just have to execute. And that's why I wish I had the answers. I don't know if it's the personnel. I don't know if it's the play caller, but they need to run more, plays that, Packers bread and butter, run some slants, run some crossing routes, run Lacey in the red zone. But I wish I had an answer for it, but they just need to find ways to put touchdowns in the red zone.
Well, this is going to bring me to one thing. We now have Randall Cobb back. And if we look, we did score that touchdown when Rodgers slid up in the pocket and found Cobb. And I think that really might be able to open up some things in the red zone. And also the emergence of Quarles. I think Quarles has to have a big game on Sunday. I know we talk about their linebacking core, but we've got to find a way to get Quarles involved in this game, in that intermediate seam-type route to be able to move the chains. And I also think that he might be able to get some things done if we can get the protection up front. And so in the red zone, I don't even remember the last time that Quarles was even targeted. Do you?
Not to my knowledge. I don't recall it. Well, there was a interception Rodgers had against the Bears that Quarles actually stopped his route. I don't know if it's because he saw the other receiver there and didn't want to create a huge pile up there, but that's the only time I ever saw him being an option in the red zone on Sunday.
And I just think that we've got to do that. I know we lost Finley, and he used to be, somewhat of a target getting us into the red zone and even sometimes in the red zone. But we've really gotten away from targeting the tight ends in the red zone. And I'm not saying that's why we're so bad in the red zone, but for some reason, and you and I talked about this, and you know how I break the field down, Evan. I actually break it down into thirds, and I say once we get into that last third of the field, and I don't call it the red zone, I'm talking about the 30 in, it all of a sudden seems that we do get a little bit more conservative. We don't open it up, and we get a little bit predictable. I don't have a problem running the ball when we're inside the 5. I think it's great. We have the power running game now. But it just seems like we get predictable. And if I'm sitting on my couch being able to predict the play, these guys that are getting paid millions of dollars to coordinate a defense certainly are doing it also. So I think you and I talked once. What do you think what if McCarthy just said, you know what, Rodgers, run the no huddle, call your plays inside the 20, read the defense, do what you think is right? Do you think that's something that could help solve that problem, Evan? What's your opinion on that?
I think it could help. I think I think Rodgers gets a lot of freedom as it is anyways in the red zone, so it probably definitely wouldn't hurt to give him a little bit more freedom. But, at this point, anything can help at this point, because the way they're doing things now, it's not getting the job done. And let me see if I can find this red zone scoring at all. I'm not finding that stat right off the top of my right away. But I know I know they're not very good in it. I think they're less than 40% scoring in the red zone. I know they're last I saw, they were not worst in the league, but second or third away from worst in the league. But it definitely wouldn't hurt.
Well, and those overall stats are going to also include, Matt Flynn and Tolzien when they were in. But, like we said, even with Rodgers,
they weren't even that great with Rodgers.
No, I know, that's what I was going to. We weren't even that good in the beginning of the year. And to be honest, you had mentioned this as a point on Sunday. Field goals, holding the 49ers to field goals. Well, if that field is going to be frozen, I know there's coils underneath, and I know they heat it, But you know what? Those coils make that field mushy. When it melts, it's like anything that you do. When you melt ice, it becomes watery, and that field becomes mushy. I don't know how the conditions are going to be to even kick long field goals. So when I look at the key to this game, I think you hit it right on the head early in the game, Evan. It is running the ball, stopping the run, being able to do that. And a couple of things today as I was on Twitter and I was on Facebook. The first thing I want to bring up is running with Frank Gore and running with Eddie Lacy. I think the quality of running back is a push. The problem I have is that this 49er run defense is pretty stout. When I look at the stats, they're ranked 4th in the league. They only give up 96 yards, and they don't give up a lot of big runs. So you and I had talked before the show, and we had mentioned on Monday in our recap, we thought we went to the well one or too many times on the toss sweep. But what are your thoughts on that toss sweep? Do you think that might be able to work against the 49ers?
It could. The only concern I have is trying to get a body on Willis and Bauman in that middle, because they are very fast at sliding to the football. They're very fast to get there. If you don't get a body on them, the play is not going to go anywhere. That's the one concern I have with running it. But I think with the way the Lions have been playing lately, I think they could do it.
So then the other option is, do you think we can run it between the tackles? Do you think we can just hand it right up to Lacy and go between the tackles? And it's the play that I talk about, the play that Starks runs, the play that Starks gets big chunks of yards off. Do you think we can make that play work against the 49ers defense?
All depends on what offensive line shows up to play. If it's the same offensive line from week 1, which the Packers didn't even use Starks in week 1 at all, really. But if the offensive line that played in week 1 shows up, then Packers are in for a long day. But if the offensive line over the past few weeks, or pretty much every game after that one, is the one that shows up, minus the second Detroit game, I think the Packers have a really good chance to be able to move the football quite well.
Well, they're going to have to. The key is going to be that run. If they can't establish anything with the run, the play action's not going to work. And we talked about the pressure the 49ers get. It could be another long day for the Packers. The other question that came up and that I got into a little bit on Facebook today, Evan, is everybody's all excited about the Randall Cobb return. And I think that can help in the red zone. But there was a question posed, what do you think Randall Cobb's stats will be on Sunday? I'm going to let you answer that question first, and I'm going to tell you what my response was. And again, I'm just an idiot with an opinion. You might think I'm off the rocker. But the question was, what do you think Randall Cobb will do and impact the game on Sunday? What do you think his stats are going to be, Evan?
Very hard to say, because I don't know how much work they want to give him yet. Because as we all saw in the Chicago game, they didn't give him a lot of action. Now, I think to be successful against the 49ers, I think they need to get him, I would say, at least 6 to 7 touches in the game in order to be successful. I can't predict what I think his stats line is going to be like, but I think they have to get him 6 or 7 touches in order to be successful against the 49ers. So I'll just stick with that. They have to get him 6 or 7 touches.
Well, I agree with you. If they're going to get him involved, they've got to get him involved early, maybe some bubble screens, working him out of the backfield like they used to early in the season. But here's my thought, and you can chime in when I'm done. I think the way that they used him against Chicago, I don't think that he was meant to be involved in a couple of the first touchdown. I'm not sure if that was Randall Cobb, if that play was designed to go to him. Even on the long touchdown, that was the communication between Rodgers and Cobb. Cobb read the defense, Cobb went vertical. I think the 49ers have to account for Cobb. I think Cobb is used more as a decoy against the 49ers, and I think my breakout player, if you're talking passing game, on Sunday is James Jones, because they're going to have to use a safety on Cobb, which could open up some things over the top for James Jones. That's what I think could happen. depending on what we do in the passing game. Just my thought. What do you think about that, Evan?
If you're going to have Cobb on the field, I don't really want to see him being used as a decoy. If you're going to have Cobb on the field, use him for, the skills that he brings you. Now, I could see the 49ers taking a little easier cushion on him, not thinking that's what they're going to try to use him as, and maybe he can get open that way. But I don't know. I just don't like the idea of using one of your better skill positions as a decoy.
Let me rephrase then, because I don't mean it as a decoy, but when you put him on the field, they're going to have to account for him. And I think that Cobb is a guy that's going to warrant some of that double coverage. They're going to have to slide a safety his way, because a linebacker can't slide in there. And if they're going to cover him one-on-one, then he doesn't become a decoy anymore. I think they're going to plan, and they're going to try to stop Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb is a game changer. And so when he's on the field, they've got to account for him. So basically what I'm saying there is I think we may see Cobb on the field more, but I'm not sure if all these plays are even going to be run for Cobb, and I think that's going to open up single coverage for James Jones. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I say – okay.
No, go ahead.
I say Boykin's going to have to step up and have the big day personally. I think it's going to have to be Boykin. I think the attention is going to be focused on slowing down Nelson Jones and Cobb. That's going to be where the 49ers' attention is. So it's going to be up to Boykin. It's going to be up to Corliss to step up and have a big breakout game. And it wouldn't surprise me if Boykin ends up having a big breakout game.
Well, and that's where I went earlier when I said Corliss has to do some stuff, and Corliss will have an opportunity because of what we're going to do. When we talk about the running game, but I wouldn't be against McCarthy coming in there. And again, we don't know what the field conditions are going to be like. We don't know if we're going to be able to pass the ball, if the wind's going to be swirling, and that passing game is not going to work. But I wouldn't be against going out there and trying a couple of four-wide formations, getting Boykin, James, Nelson, Cobb all on the field at the same time, because then they're going to have to pull people out of the box, and it's going to open some stuff up. But again, we don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. But I would not be against spreading them wide. Now, again, if we do that, you had brought up a good point before, that offensive line better come to play if we go four wide. Because then if they bring the blitz, we're in some trouble, and Lacey and Starks are going to have to pick up the blitz, or Kuhn, who's ever in there. But those are some of the things. I mean, again, I'm just throwing some stuff out there, because this is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be another one of those games. I mean, let's look at the scores. We go back to week 1 of the regular season, not this season, 2 years ago, 30-22. Divisional round, 45-31. This year, 34-28. Both of these offenses can put up points. And I don't care what the weather is. I'm going to throw the weather out. I believe that this game is going to score some points again. These are two good offensive teams. It's going to come down to defense. Who's going to be able to make a stop? Who's going to be able to get the turnovers? That's where I think the weather comes into play. I don't think the weather is going to slow down the offense. It may cause some turnovers for fumbles, maybe a bad pass, but I don't think the weather is going to make this game all of a sudden become 10-7. Do you?
No, it won't be a 10-7 game. If the Packers hold the 49ers to either 10 or 7 points, I would be beyond shocked. The way the defense plays, and the Packers, as you said, should be able to move the football against the 49ers, but it's all going to come down to scoring in the red zone. And they didn't do very well scoring in the red zone the last time they played. Week 1, they didn't do well scoring in the red zone back in the playoffs when they played, and they didn't do very good scoring in the red zone Week 1 last year either. So it's just a matter of, the Packers can move the ball on the 49ers. They have in the past, even with their strong defense. But there's no way it's going to be a 10-7 game.
And so that goes to my point. One of these defenses is going to have to come up with a big stop. So with about 5 minutes to go, Evan, we might as well get right into the prediction. How we see this game going Sunday. I mean, if we recap the things you're talking about, got to be able to play good gap defense, got to be disciplined, Got to be able to put pressure on Kaepernick. We have to be able to figure out a way to run the ball. We've got to be able to score in the red zone, put points on the board. But where are you going with this game, Evan? I mean, this is a huge game, playoff game at Lambeau Field. What are you saying?
Well, I think you named it key in what you were saying there. It's going to come down to which defense makes the big stop. And I look at that 49er defense, they're deep at corner, deep at safety. As you said, probably the best linebacking core in the NFL, with two of the best middle linebackers in the NFL. And you said it comes down to, which defense can make a stop. And looking at the two defenses, the two defenses that are going to be on the field, and then you look at the Packers defense, where you got probably the worst safety play in the league. Tremont Williams and Sam Shields have been better as of late, but they've been up and down, especially Williams. The defensive line with no push up the middle whatsoever, and a linebacking core that's lacking speed and lacking, playmaking ability. So when you said it comes down to a defensive stop, and I agree completely, and because of that, I'm going to have to go with San Francisco, unfortunately making it a fourth straight victory over Green Bay. And I see San Francisco winning probably 35-30, and with Green Bay falls just short again against the 49ers.
Oh, Evan, you're breaking my heart. You're breaking my heart, man. Packers losing the playoffs at Lambeau Field. Well, like always, guess what? I'm going to agree with you. Unfortunately, I have to agree. I wanted to disagree. You and I talked about it in the pre-show, that I should disagree with you on purpose, but I can't do it. Coming down to the defensive side of things, I think this becomes a shootout like we just talked about. For you, I think the 49ers actually are going to win by 10. I think what happens is we have a chance to go down to either tie the game or take the lead, and that's where the 49ers make the play. You had hit it on the head. We look at our defense, and at best, I think it's sporadic. We can make the big play sometimes, but we can't do it consistently. I think the 49ers defense does it consistently. They bring the pressure. Like I talked about earlier, the sack numbers may not be there, and they're only tied for 18th. The Packers...
Adam Smith missed a lot of time this year.
Yeah, and the Packers statistically are ranked 8th in sacks. But if you think about it, that surprises me because, yeah, we get these sacks, but where's the pressure? And I'm talking consistent pressure, and that's what the 49ers bring. And I think they're going to bring the pressure. They have shut down corners, in my opinion. They've got good secondary play. I already mentioned it. I think they have the best linebacking core in football. This is a tough draw in the first weekend, even though the game's at home. I don't think the weather plays a factor as far as how the offenses move, but I think it may cause a couple turnovers. Both teams are good at forcing fumbles. They're very good at being able to do that. I think the 49ers come up with a play late in the fourth quarter.
90 seconds.
And that seals our fate. So I'm picking about the same score as you, Bud, but my score is 38-28 49ers. And so that will end the Packers season. Now, I hope we're both wrong. I really hope we're both wrong on Sunday. And I hope we go out and
we can have a preview a week from now.
I sure hope so, too. We'll definitely have a recap for sure. But with that said, about a minute to go, Bud, we'll wrap up. I'll let you, as always,
60 seconds.
End the show as we move forward. You can let the viewers know, or the listeners know, what we got coming up tomorrow and on Saturday. Thanks, everyone, for listening to Packer Preview. Evan, you can finish the show, bud.
Well, tomorrow we're going to preview the remaining playoff games, and if we have time, touch on Jay Cutler's contract by the Bears and how we feel about that. And then Saturday we're going to do I guess I'll just call it Evan and Troy is Burning, Light Sports Ramble presents. And basically we're going to talk about Black Monday, recap that a little bit, and just touch on a couple of things that are just, grinding our gears a little bit from it. So
10 seconds.
Thank you for the listeners, and I hope everyone has a great night.
We'll see you at the next red light. We're going to try to leave you with some music.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.